Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe. According to Big C, and the good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys from Canada, you know we love you in Africa, the Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free, in the home of the brave, on a beautiful September the 5th, 2018, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, I showed up on time today. On the 4th, I was a little late. You know, you go take a nap in the backyard, and you expect your dog to wake you up, and you realize the neighbor still has the dog, and you can't show up on time. So, you know, I'm here today.
Yeah, that's funny. I think your dog was in, we said Will Smith stole your dog. It was I Am Legend. That's the good old movie that Will Smith had. I said, that looked like Big C's dog, but they changed his color for the movie, Big C. You know how dogs act when they go Hollywood. I do want to say today is a great day for the sports universe. A lot of good things happening in the world of the NFL. Just about ready for a kickoff to start officially when everything is real. Also, WNBA, they're making baskets all over the court, Big C. Of course, baseball. This is when you really find out. It's a September that some good old boys get to chase down the hunt for the October. And I do want to say today's segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Big C, I was thinking about something just the other day. I was talking to, I went into this jewelry shop, and I had my ring all polished off and cleaned off, and man, the guy made it look like it was brand new. But just as I was feeling kind of proud and confident, this lady walks in, and she was having her ring cleaned too. But hers was so big, and I wonder, how can someone have a ring that big? So she had it appraised, and he said, well, ma'am, you know this ring is not real, right? And she said, what do you mean? What do you mean it's not real? He said, well, this ring is probably worth about $12. He said, $12? I guess some good old boys tried to give her a proposal, but it was cubic zirconia. I thought it was like a $20,000 diamond. No, it wasn't the real thing. So when you want the real thing, follow Big C Sports, not the other shows. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think Vanilla Ice had a song like that, Ice Baby. And she fell for the ice and didn't realize it was real ice, Charlton. It wasn't a stone, you know. I mean, so many people want to deal with the flash and everything, and rings get you noticed.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough to have a couple championship rings, and I choose not to wear them because people notice them.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of former players like to wear them around. I mean, they're great showpiece.
Yep.
I mean, and they're meant for events. They're not meant for everyday wear. And
right.
I see guys wearing them every day, whether they're a high school ring, college ring, professional ring, Charlton. But I think the respect of the ring is to make it special, not just an everyday thing.
Yep.
But when it's time to show it in a significant place where people will really appreciate it in a gathering is the proper time. But you get these ladies that, they fall out over what they got on their hand. And I don't know if they think that they earn it or it's a badge of honor. Because as an athlete, you earn a ring when you get that size. But when you walk into a jewelry store and you got a piece of cubic zirconia, you wonder what she did to get it.
Yeah. I tell you, the funny part is, the guy gave it to her for whatever reason because he wanted her to feel loved, right? But I want all you guys to know, women will get your ring appraised. They will get that ring appraised, love or nothing, and if it doesn't come back as the real thing, then oftentimes you don't get to go any further than second base. I know a lot of times we want to know what's real, and it's a lot like the sports world. It's even a lot like politics. Just because somebody gives us something, it doesn't mean that it's real. That's why on Big C Sports we'll always tell you to Google it. So if you Google it, that's supposed to be non-partial. So that's why I thought it was so funny. I'm getting my ring clean. This girl walks in looking all foo-foo. I mean, she probably only ate organic beef, Big C. But he said, this is not real. I kind of felt bad, but she was like shocked. She turned all bright red. But all you ladies, go out there and get it checked out. You know that's true. But Big C, what is not cubic zirconia, WNBA basketball. The Washington and Seattle will be in the WNBA Finals best of 5. Now, I think, the universe has a mysterious way of bringing things about. but it looks like people will see if the city of Seattle will really embrace basketball again, and I think they will. But it's kind of a sign from the universe that Seattle has the WNBA in their backyard again. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they've been there before. They got the best player in the WNBA, and Sue Bird, and the Seattle Sounders. I mean, a marvelous basketball organization, Charlton, and it shows that this city hasn't forgotten about professional basketball. On the other hand, when you look at the Washington Mystics, Charlton, this is a city that has a hot hand right now when you look at championships.
Yeah.
The Washington Capitals won the NHL Stanley Cup. Now you had a Mystics, led by Della Donna, on the verge of winning a WNBA championship, Charlton, in this best out of 5 series. Just an exciting time for women basketball. I mean, all the series were very competitive, Charlton, in the semifinals getting to this point. And it's just great to see basketball still taking a main stage in professional athletics here in America.
Yeah, especially for the women, because they fought hard. I remember just when the league came out, there are a lot of people that maybe didn't get behind it at first, but you can look back to the first Super Bowl. It was not a sellout either. And now you can't get a ticket unless you got a lot of money, Big C, or know the right people. So just the fact that you have a city like Seattle and given the chance to go there, they beat the Mercury 94-84, and so they get to advance. And I still think about, when we talk about NBA basketball, Kevin Durant was actually drafted by the Seattle Supersonics. I remember when Kemp played there, Sean Kemp, and they played the Chicago Bulls and the great Michael Jordan, and they had that series. Seattle was actually in the finals at Key Arena. Well, even at that time, that arena looked like it was more on par for a college stadium, maybe University of Washington or Washington State. Now, just to see the atmosphere that can be around a city again, you can see more people supporting the Seattle WNBA team than even some cities supporting NBA basketball, especially later in the year when their teams don't win. Do you think that's a bargaining board also for them to land maybe an NBA team to come back in the next year or two? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's a solid NBA market. You got to remember, they also won the NBA title back in 1978. The Supersonics did, led by Fred Brown, Dennis Johnson, the late Dennis Johnson, who went on to win another title with the Boston Celtics. Jack Sigma was on that team, Lonnie Shelton, Gus Johnson. Great lineup, Charlton, great NBA talent. And just a very exciting, electrifying city. You wonder, well, when you look at the Pacific Northwest, you had 2 NBA teams that were about 400 miles apart from each other, depart that region of the country. You had the Vancouver Grizzlies, who went to Memphis. Yeah. And you had the Seattle Supersonics, who ended up in Oklahoma. Yeah. And you just wonder, where was the NBA draw in those cities beyond the cities that they were in? I mean, you're talking about 2 beautiful metropolitan cities that are well known. Not everybody knows around the world where Oklahoma City is. Not everybody around the world knows where Memphis is. Yeah. But Vancouver and Seattle, those are huge international ports. And you had a fan base, especially in Seattle. After you'd won an NBA title, you'd been to an NBA Finals, and you had always had a competitive team. That Western Conference, Charlton, was always a tough conference with Portland, Seattle, Los Angeles, Golden State. Yeah. San Diego at the time. Those teams are always competitive, and they had great fan bases. Yeah. And, Seattle going back with the WNBA team, Charlton, and they've been a winning team. They've drawn, nice crowds up there, Charlton, and they're back in the finals again. Yeah. So maybe this is a hint to the NBA. Look around the league, Charlton, and see where we're not being very competitive and we're not drawing in certain markets. Yeah. Build an arena in Seattle, Charlton. You built a brand new football stadium. Yeah. You built a brand new baseball stadium, Charlton, and you couldn't build a basketball arena. Yeah. And only one of those teams have won, and that was the football team. Yeah. It's been a long time since the Mariners have been competitive, but they have Safeco Field. Yep. Build a basketball arena. Well, even when they went from the Kingdome because they had chunks of cement falling down on people, you wonder, is that a conspiracy? How do you get a new stadium built? You start having chunks of cement fall out of the old Kingdome. I remember going up there seeing the 49ers play the Seattle Seahawks back in the early 90s. Joe Montana was up there playing too. And just recently, of course they tore it down, but that's a stadium that did not last longer than a cup of coffee according to stadium standards. But I do want to ask you this thought. The voters in Seattle, they only passed getting the Seattle Seahawks that new gorgeous stadium by a vote of 51-49.
they were on their way out of Seattle. But I know you've been up in the Vancouver area when they had the Vancouver Grizzlies. That metropolitan area is as beautiful. I mean, it's a lot more beautiful than Memphis. It's a lot more beautiful than OKC. But just your thoughts in the feel, I mean, even though it was several years ago, is the feeling that they would welcome the NBA back? I don't know why the NBA ever left there. Is there a feel, Big C, that they would welcome them back? I know Seattle would, but what about Vancouver? Your thoughts?
Well, you would think that Vancouver would want a team back, Jonathan, because when you look at that Vancouver-Toronto rivalry, I can never understand why Major League Baseball didn't put a team in Vancouver. I mean, you had teams in Montreal and you had teams in Toronto.
Yeah.
To have an East Coast, West Coast Canadian rivalry, Jonathan, you'd think it would be a mainstay.
Yeah.
And when you look at the two largest cities in that country, why can't they support professional teams? And, when you look at it, Seattle, like I said, they're about 400 miles apart geographically.
Yeah.
But, so is Portland from Seattle. So there's enough, fan base in all of those cities to support. All those cities are multi-million, population cities.
Yeah.
And when you're winning, you're going to draw.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to tell me that Indiana is a bigger market than Seattle?
No.
That Memphis is a bigger market than Seattle? Bigger market than Vancouver? No, Charlton. So when you look around the NBA and you look at some of these mid-level markets that they have, and you wonder how can they support a team, and you say that these other markets cannot.
Yeah, I think that's true. When you look at Indianapolis and Vancouver, I think that Indianapolis has, mostly for the Indy 500 and the Indiana Pacers and, of course, the Indianapolis Colts, but they have their own little, that's their stick back there. But as far as beauty, and the thing about the West Coast, the Pacific Realm, when you think about money that comes from all over the world, a lot of that money that pours into Vancouver, as you know, Big C Sports is the #1 sports show in the universe. A lot of people come from all over the world to the Pacific Realm, whether it's shipping, whether they're shipping in food or shipping in automotive parts, even the airplane industry up in that great Northwest. So you have a lot of money, expendable money. If you put a franchise up there, people would support it as long as it's marketed right. And just to prove that, look at what Phil Knight has done with Nike and how he's up in the great Northwest. He's funded it out of his own pocket. I think out of his own pocket is true. He has so much money. He helped the University, Oregon State University.
I don't know if he funded it out of money, just fell out of his pocket. But when you got as much money as Phil, Uncle Phil, as they call him up north.
Yeah.
And every now and then, you had that cousin when you were young.
Yeah.
The uncle, whatever, they would always sit on the couch and have change in his pocket. And everybody was waiting on him to get up because the change would fall out after they
always.
Yeah, and that's Uncle Phil. But see, the difference with that uncle that we had, Jonathan, he had coins, and if he hit the floor, they made noise.
Yeah,
Uncle Phil, when he hit the floor, it's just soft as a feather.
He was like Uncle Phil from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He had a lot of money, but that money, he put his money behind Oregon State's baseball stadium. Of course, he funds the weight room at the University of Oregon. So money in the Northwest is so big, and they deserve to have a team back in Seattle for WNBA. And I would love what you said. I would love for baseball to figure out how to get Major League Baseball in Vancouver. They have the money. They have the market. I'm not advocating for a team like the A's to leave because they're going to build a new stadium over in the East Bay. But there's some teams out there that are having a hard time getting people to show up because the money's not there in that city to do it. I don't think you would have a problem finding money up in the great Northwest. I do want to add on something since we talked about the great Phil Knight. I know your friend POTUS doesn't invite you to golf tournaments anymore, especially down at Mar-a-Lago, since he realized the taxpayers are paying for Air Force One. It doesn't come off of his attorneys that write checks for him, Big C. But POTUS is saying, again, this is a guy that I don't know if he got a job with Phil Knight, but he says that the Trump administration says Trump says Nike would be taking a beating. The same way I guess he said Vladimir Putin beats people that are his enemies too, Big C. But he says they're going to be taking a beating because of what they're doing with Colin Kaepernick. Now, here's a guy that says the economy's back, and he wants people to brag about that, but he's still trying to make another African-American man unemployed. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, not just that yet, Charlton. He is blasting an American industry.
Yeah.
Saying that, they should lose money. Now, here's a guy who's constantly bragging about how well the markets are doing because he's president. I don't know if anybody's paying attention, Charlton, but in the last 2 days, Nike has had over 7 million advertisement hits in the United States.
Wow.
Think about that. 7 million. So I'm trying to understand where he's saying Nike's taking a beating.
Fake news.
And they haven't paid for any of it, Charlton.
I know it.
Talking about free advertising for commercial.
Yeah.
Anywhere. On the internet, Charlton, on television, they're running free Nike commercials on television right now, trying to get ahead of this advertisement that's coming out on the opening game of the NFL season.
Yeah.
Every sports outlet on television, Charlton, has been playing it. Nike hasn't paid for one of those commercials.
No.
Nike has had, in the last 24 hours, Charlton, technically, over 7 million media hits. Think about that.
Wow.
I mean, so when somebody's taking a financial beating, and you're getting 7 million free advertisement hits, ask anybody in marketing, and I know we have people that listen, that works in some sort of advertising or whatever, Charlton.
Yeah.
What does one of your spots cost? I mean, you think that ESPN is giving away spots for free? Nobody's giving them away for free for Nike right now.
Yeah.
Fox is giving them away. NBC News, ABC News, CBS News, Charlton. Everybody is giving away free Nike advertising right now.
Yeah.
You think Nike is not a genius, Charlton? They didn't become the world leader in sports apparel by being stupid and foolish.
Yeah.
They do things cautiously, Charlton. Calculate what they're going to do.
I think
they calculated this move in every way that you could think of.
Yeah, you're right, Big C. And also, they use an African-American man to do it. And there's some people who say maybe they should have done it sooner. Nobody's perfect, okay? There's just nothing perfect about anybody. But the fact that they gave a black man a chance who this whole country tried to ostracize as we stand up for the land of the free and the home of the brave, and we all like transparency. I think POTUS, if he were to show his tax returns, that might get more hits than Nike hiring Colin Kaepernick. So here's a question and a challenge for POTUS himself, since they bug our lines anyway, Big C. I hope that Nike will sponsor Donald Trump's revealing of his tax returns for the whole universe to see. So when do you think we'll see that before the NFL kickoff, that POTUS will actually show his tax returns, since he's trying to throw some type of cloak and dagger against Colin Kaepernick? I would think that POTUS would have more credibility with people, even people that are dumb. If they could just see his tax returns, I think people might believe him a little bit more. Would that make any sense, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you're dishonorable, you're dishonorable. And the tax return is not going to change people's opinion of him, even though you know you're hiding something when you don't. I mean, as an American citizen, you don't do your taxes, what happens to you? The IRS comes knocking on your door. Matter of fact, they just take the money out of your bank account.
They take it out of the bank,
They don't even knock on your door. But here's a guy that's doing shady dealings, and he always has. He's never been an honorable businessman.
No.
And he's attacking everybody. If the country's doing so great, economically, employment-wise, why don't you toot your own horn on that every day? Why do you attack other people? Why are you attacking African-American athletes in sports?
Yeah.
You think about it. As a culture, you've had a 400-year start on free labor, education, politics, everything in this country.
Yep.
African Americans are always going to be playing catch-up.
Yeah.
They've been playing catch-up on employment. They've been playing catch-up on education. They've been playing catch-up on athletics. The minute an African American gets ahead in anything, all of a sudden he's anti-American.
Yeah.
But he's done things the American way. He sat back, he learned, he took 400 years of oppression to learn what the American way was.
Yep.
You know, and I heard a broadcaster on a network that starts with an F.
Yep.
Talking about Kaepernick being anti-American. Why didn't they hire a military person, to be the spokesperson for Nike? He needs to go look at some of the graves around the country, of Americans who died in war.
Yeah.
And I asked myself, this man who made this asinine comment, this biggest comment, did he ever look at how many of African-American lives were lost just trying to be American citizens?
Wow.
Not doing anything illegal, Charlton, just walking down the street, just trying to raise their family. And we're talking about ever since slavery was abolished, Charlton, that African-Americans have lost their life. There's graveyards that are strewn with American lives, African American lives, Charlton, that were ended for doing nothing wrong other than just living.
That's true.
When they lynched Americans in the street, Charlton, African Americans, and had lynching parties.
Yeah.
Just go drag them out of their homes. What, for being American?
Yep.
For just trying to have a job and support their families, Charlton? All the African Americans who have fought in American wars since the Civil War and never really got the recognition of their accomplishments, Charlton.
Yep.
Always got paid less, got treated worse. They're still fighting in wars today. So when you want to talk about an African American's contribution, when you talk about do all that you can, even if you risk losing everything,
Yeah.
African Americans, Charlton, have lost everything since they've been in this country.
Yeah.
When they fought for freedom, they were losing their lives, Charlton. When they fought for employment, they were losing their lives, Charlton. When they fought for equal education, they were losing their lives, Charlton. When they fought for equal housing, they were losing their lives. So if you read the message of what Nike and Colin Kaepernick will be presenting tomorrow night during that NFL game, Charlton,
Yeah.
look at the history of African Americans in the U.S. and see if they have not lost everything just trying to do it, Charlton, just trying to be their best.
Yeah, you know, I tell you, Phil Knight could be African American, man. We all know that all life began on the African continent, but he had that slogan, just do it. When you think about just do it, this is so important to me because I meet too many intelligent men that don't have a voice. They may be a PhD, they could be book smart, but they don't have a voice outside of the people that are within their sphere of influence.
Charlton,
Yeah.
Was Martin Luther King wrong when he just did it?
No.
When he, brought everybody together
Yeah.
for equal rights. Was Rosa Parks wrong when she just did it, sitting on the bus, Charlton?
Yep.
Was Thurgood Marshall wrong when he just did it when they helped pass the Education Act?
Brown versus
You know,
Board of Education. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, so when African Americans have taken the spotlight, was Barack Obama wrong when he ran for president and became the first African American president of the United States? Just doing it.
Yeah.
If you risk losing everything and doing it, you did. Martin Luther King lost everything, Charlton, in just doing it. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
The ultimate loss. So all of these proponents out there saying that Nike and Colin Kaepernick are wrong, look at how many African Americans have lost everything, lost their lives just doing it.
Yeah.
Just trying to be American citizens. Not doing anything wrong, just trying to be American citizens.
Well, I love that, Big C, because it only takes a few bold people. And that's why we've always talked about you don't have to believe anybody. Just Google everything. When Frederick Douglass helped craft the Emancipation Proclamation, he may have loved sports too, but didn't get a chance to play on a team. And there are so many guys who are multimillionaires today because a lot of men sacrifice. But that same anathema that POTUS has for black Americans, unless you're trying to get a suntan, they have to overcome that. I look at what xenophobia is, and that's...
You want to talk about men, look at women. Harriet Tubman.
Yep.
Harriet Tubman, a diminutive, small African-American woman that was born in slavery, freed more slaves than any woman in history.
Yep.
Any woman in history had the highest bounty on her head in American history while she was alive. So she did it. She just did it.
Just do
at
it.
the risk of losing everything.
Yep.
So when you think about that slogan, you have to understand black history in America. The risk of losing everything. Jackie Robinson, even when he broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball, even though it's to tear down the Negro Leagues by Branch Rickey and Major League Baseball, they lost everything. He risked his life every time he walked out on the field. Hank Aaron, when he broke Babe Ruth's record, it was at the risk of almost losing his life. There were death threats from white America. From this African American in sports breaking this hollowed record. He wasn't supposed to break it. They wanted to kill him. So this has been a history of blacks in America, whether it's in sports, whether it's in politics, whether it's in social service. You risk everything when you defend your race. That's what white society stands. So when we want to talk about racism, where does racism come from? It comes from those opposing black equality in America.
And that's when you look up at xenophobia. It's just fear or hatred of people who are different than you. They call it foreigners or strangers. But when you think about people who are prescient enough to see the future, even though they don't live it, that's what Dr. King was. He was a seer. when you think about that's what so many wonderful men were when they did things that even cost their own lives so the next generation can live better. Frederick Douglass, when he helped craft the Emancipation Proclamation, he didn't have a contract to work for Nike or some sports team, but they did things because it was universally right. And for anyone in the universe that loves whoever you love, what kind of person is a POTUS from any country that wants to shout down somebody who tells people to Google equality, especially in a democracy? So I just think that's bigger than the sports game, because so many people have been dumbed down by the game. Hey, can't you wait and see the game? As we're talking about the games, they're trying to strip away the voting rights for a lot of people of color by doing this red district. It's called redistricting, gerrymandering. They all understand that. So let's make sure we do that too. I'm really proud of Nike just for standing up for somebody who's been ostracized by even POTUS. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you talk about taking away voting rights, Charlton, in the state that I live in, they have the first African-American woman running for governor of this state in the history of this state. And they're closing down voting polls, Charlton, already, talking about financial concerns.
Wow.
Because these voting polls, these voting stations that they're closing down, Charlton, are in African-American districts.
Yeah.
So they're closing them down. They've already, in this state, closed down 17. 17.
Really?
Prior to the election. 17 polling stations have been closed down. Who's in government right now? They're not African Americans running the state. But
yep.
The governor and the attorney general are in charge of that, Charlton.
Yeah.
So you close down 17 polling stations prior to the next election, Charlton, because you have an African American woman who has the potential of becoming the first African American governor in a state. And you start closing polling stations, Charlton,
yeah.
in African American districts. What is that? When they're talking about being all you can be,
yeah.
Is that limiting America's opportunity?
Yep.
That's anti-American. So when you want to talk about going against the flag, going against the police, going against the military, when you don't allow the vote to take effect,
yep.
That's anti-American. That's anti-police. That's anti-military, that's anti-flag. But it's okay because white society is doing it, Charlton.
And that's what everybody wants you to be aware of. Just don't keep shouting down people who are saying, pay attention. I'm really disappointed in our leadership when it comes to POTUS, whether you support them or not. Just imagine if he was trying to fire you or have you lose your job. Whoever your supporters are, if your own supporters had that same type of attention turned on them, would they still listen to every word he says? And ironically, because I love sports and I love intelligent people, that's the only way you learn, Big C. Nielsen, this is for people that say the NFL is losing ratings because they have a black man saying let's have more equality. Nielsen's projected that the NFL gambling could be worth $2.3 billion this year alone. With it be $2.3 billion. So if the league is turning people off because they have some intelligent man asking just to pay attention to more than just sports, especially when you don't have a uniform on. How do we protect more black young men like Frederick Douglass taught, Dr. King taught? $2.3 billion, there's a lot of people watching more than turning out, Big C, you think?
Well, Charlton, I kind of think that some people might have two TVs on.
Yeah.
I don't know if, the president understood what he said. The NFL will be taking a beating. I think he meant billions. He could be dyslexic, who knows?
Yeah.
But I think when they told him billions, they're taking a beating. They're making $2.3 billion from gambling.
Yeah.
So, that's a lot of money on a 16-week schedule.
Yep.
So, I don't know if he knows finances that well, but maybe he needs to talk to Mr. Goodell.
Yeah.
And say, hey, I know you guys wouldn't let me into your good old boys club several years ago. That's why I'm saying all these bad things about you and black players all the time.
Yeah.
But anyway that I can get some of that legitimate money, instead of having to hide the stuff that I get.
Instead of having to get a loan from Baker Putin to get some money to finance some more hotels, Trixie, I think that's crazy. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And for every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer leagues, when you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you. So you think about the NFL. and how it's the king, it's just the king right now. Even though we haven't had official kickoff yet, people are tailgating already. There are people planning, because it's that moment, like the sports is the new religion. And it brings people together that probably would not even spend time with each other in their neighborhood or their work site. I mean, our country's a great country. We can be imperfect, but we can come together and break bread during a common event, Big C, whether it's politics or sports, 24 hours until NFL kickoff, with the Falcons versus the Eagles in Philadelphia. The city of brotherly love, even though they boo Santa Claus, so that's an oxymoron right there. But come game time, to red zone efficiency, neither team was very efficient scoring in the preseason. And something that you pointed out a couple of weeks ago that mainstream media is covering now, Carson Wentz is still injured. You can see when someone's laboring around, and I don't want to see them rush him back and have him destroy his career over some ego. Whether Peterson says, well, I'm not going to tell you who the starting quarterback is, you can watch him on tape and tell there's no need for him to even be out there suited up. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Peterson's a very intelligent guy, Charlton. He was in the Eastern Conference for years with Andy Reid. He saw a quarterback right down I-95 from where he was, Charlton, named RG3.
Yep.
Who was rushed back after a knee injury.
Yep.
And his career was basically ended at that point, and he's been a journeyman ever since. And he was thought to be part of the future of the NFL as far as the face of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So he understands. We won the championship last year.
Yeah.
The chances of us winning it again this year are not that great. We don't get repeat champions in the NFL.
No.
But the chance of us being able to win one, maybe two more Super Bowls over the next 10 years, Charlton, are even greater if Carson Wentz is healthy when he comes back.
Yeah.
As a head coach, you're not here to satisfy the media. You're not concerned whether they get the right story written.
No.
You don't even care about the inaccuracies of the stories that they write, Charlton. Your job is to take care of the 53 players in that locker room.
Yep.
The best of your ability. To make sure that you have the proper game plan offensively and defensively, and the players are healthy enough to play.
Yep.
That's why you have these team doctors, guys making $1 million a year, tell you whether somebody can play or not play.
Yep.
And with a quarterback, Charlton, you don't want to take the chance, especially with a knee. That leg is always planted, and there's linemen always falling around his legs, whether they're offense or defensive linemen, Charlton.
Yeah.
It happens. That's how quarterbacks get injured. 80% of the time, Charlton, is that a lineman just rolls up on their leg.
Yep.
And if you lose one or two games, Charlton, you're not out of the playoff hunt. You look at the division that they're in. Who's going to challenge them? Eli Manning?
Nope.
Eli's waiting to throw an interception right now. That's what he's doing. The Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, you and I could probably play wide receiver on the Dallas Cowboys.
I was trying out for him.
So they don't have anybody.
Yeah.
The Washington Redskins, they've lost all their running backs during the preseason. Their offensive line, they need some help.
Yeah.
So the Eagles are still the class of that division. They can withstand 4, 5, 6 losses, Charlton, and still make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Peterson understands that. The media doesn't understand that, Charlton. He's about the future, long-term. He got a new contract extension, Charlton.
Yep.
Carson Wentz is going to get a new contract after next year. But they plan on being together for a long time, not just a couple games this season.
Well, you just brought up the games about people playing well and having to play big in order to make their team successful. When I look at contracts, Matt Ryan, $30 million. As Nick Foles, $7 million. That's a $23 million difference. I mean, there's no contracts are contracts, but Nick Foles, he won the Super Bowl. I can't say he because he had a team, but he was a quarterback on the team that won the Super Bowl last year when they beat New England.
And he was the MVP in the game also.
And the MVP in the game. Talk about a guy that just can't get love. He's like Orgeron down at LSU, even though he wins like DJ Khaled, doesn't get a lot of love. And $7 million, I take the $7 million, but he's probably as effective as Matt Ryan, who gets $23 million more. Big C, I know all is fair in love and war, but at some point in time, why would a player, he has the best negotiating ability right now. The guy that started before him is injured, probably should miss at least 4 or 5 weeks to make sure that Wentz is better. And the guy, if he beats him, it'll be kind of a luck because they're at home. But you're getting $23 million less than the guy that's been the prodigal son for the NFL and Ryan. How does he keep his head focused and just play knowing he's giving up $23 million, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, we're talking to some guys that have to be there for a time. They gave him a pay increase after winning the Super Bowl. So they did add some money onto his contract, just like the Falcons did with Julio Jones to get him to come to camp. They tossed him $3 million extra dollars. But when you look at Matt Ryan, Charlton, these two quarterbacks faced off last year in the NFC Championship. Who outduels who?
Yeah.
Nick Foles outdueled Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan became the highest paid quarterback in pro football up until Aaron Rodgers signed the contract. He signed a $155 million contract off of $100 million guaranteed.
Wow.
On an average of $30 million a year.
Wow.
Now, so what you're telling me in this game tomorrow night, Charlton, that Matt Ryan will be 4 times better than Nick Foles. We
No.
don't have no excuses. And he just can't find an excuse for Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
He has to be 4 times better than Nick Foles. When Nick Foles throws a touchdown, Matt Ryan has to throw 4.
Yeah.
There's no excuse. You can't blame the other guys on the team.
Yeah.
You can't come out and say, you can't start blaming Sarkisian, the offensive coordinator. He doesn't make anywhere near the money Matt Ryan does.
No.
But, you know, what these NFL quarterbacks often remind me of is what we talked about yesterday when we talked about these college head coaches. Saying, well, they don't have the depth. They don't have the talent. They don't have their own players. You know, everybody makes an excuse for the highest paid player in the room.
Yeah.
You ever think about that? The highest paid person in the room is constantly getting an excuse made for them, whether they're a college football coach, whether they're an NFL quarterback. There's excuse makers for them. It's almost like an unwritten rule.
Yep.
Well, if he loses, there's an excuse. You know, the offensive coordinator, you know, you go back to the Super Bowl when they lost to the Patriots. Everyone blamed Shanahan. But he made the wrong play calls. Well,
Yep.
Matt Ryan was a quarterback at the line of scrimmage calling the audible.
Yep.
But Shanahan got blamed.
Yeah. That's
You know, so,
yep.
you don't throw the ball. If you're that intelligent of a quarterback that you can make $30 million a year, you know you don't throw the ball late in the game.
Yeah.
You got a 2-touchdown lead.
Well-
So the same thing is going to occur tomorrow night, Charlton. If Nick Foles goes out and outdoes Matt Ryan for the second consecutive game, the story will be Sarkisian has to go as the offensive coordinator
Yeah.
of the Falcons because Matt Ryan is not getting any help.
Yeah.
But Matt Ryan's making $30 million. I guarantee you Sarkisian is not making 3.
Yeah, I know. That's part of the thinking. You got to protect that image. That's what we tell people. Google. I get your thoughts though. NFC South was the strongest division in the NFL last year, Big C. 3 teams making the playoffs. They're the Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers, New Orleans Saints, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be much improved this season. So everybody can probably look at this point spread, and without Carson Wentz, I don't think it's going to be worse for the Eagles this year. Without Carson Wentz, they have the Super Bowl MVP playing quarterback for them in Nick Foles. But the team that has to win this game the most urgently, I know it's week 1. If Atlanta loses, they still have an improved Carolina. They have an improved New Orleans they have to play, and Tampa's improved. If like you mentioned earlier, you look at the East, it's a little bit easier for Philadelphia to lose a game and then get it back because the Giants are that good of a team. The Redskins are going to struggle without a running game. It's really going to be between them and Dallas. How much more pressure will it be on Matt Ryan to say it's not his fault if they drop this game, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Jonathan, you know, like I said, the media will automatically say Sarkisian.
Yeah.
The offensive coordinator. He's making bad play calls. You know, you start looking for an excuse that doesn't cost that much.
Yeah.
You can get rid of Sarkisian, but you can't get rid of Ryan. I mean, you got these tools out there at receiver. You got Julio Jones. You got Mohamed Sanu. You got Ridley, the number 1 draft pick. You also got Freeman in the backfield, Charlton, that you signed to an extension last year.
Yeah.
As well as Coleman, Tevin Coleman. So you got all the weapons, and you got to tell me as an NFL quarterback, you walk to the line of scrimmage. You don't have the luxury or the ability to audible, Charlton. They all do. They do it constantly.
Yeah.
Think about when you're in a hurry-up offense, Charlton. How much play does the offensive coordinator have when you're in a hurry-up offense when you're going fast?
Yeah.
When you're walking up to the line of scrimmage and you're not getting into the huddle. It's check with me all the time. That's the sign that a quarterback tells you. He tells the entire offense, check with me.
Yep.
I'm calling the play.
Yeah.
And then it's up to the center, Charlton, to make the adjustments on what the defense is doing, as far as where the alignments are. He's letting everybody know strong and weak. Who's the MAC? He's declaring, check for the blitz.
Yep.
So it's up to the quarterback, Charlton. Nick Foles and Tom Brady last year in the Super Bowl, Charlton.
Yeah.
The most offense ever in Super Bowl history. And both of these teams were going fast, Charlton. They weren't huddling up all the time. They would check with me at the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
Same thing you get with the Falcons a lot of times. Check with me at the line of scrimmage. But if you're getting $30 million, Charlton, that means you're completing 72 to 75% of your passes.
Yeah.
I'm getting 4 touchdown passes every game from you. There's no excuse.
No excuse
Even
whatsoever.
without an offensive coordinator, you can bring me a guy from Pop Warner. That's what you need to give me. Is 4 touchdown passes, Charlton, every game.
Don't get
completing 72 to 75% of your passes.
Big C, don't give anybody any ideas. If you think about John Gruden followed the show, he might get some guys out of Pop Warner, because at least when he trades them, it won't be the best guy on the team, Big C. But when you talked about when you have the hurry-up offenses and you have the blitz-happy defenses, the Bears just got better. In fact, the Bears and the Packers this Sunday at Lambeau Field, for the first time in NFL history, the highest-paid offensive player and the highest-paid defensive player will open up against each other. And ironically, we talk about the universe being right. In fact, the universe has shined on Lambeau Field again. I'm so glad they haven't torn it down. Like a lot of organizations, when they think their stadium's too old, instead of just remodeling, they tear it down. But to have these two great players, Mac and also your friend Rodgers, going against each other, and of all places, Lambeau Field is the place. It's kind of like football legends live there, Big C. Give me your thoughts on the two highest paychecks going, one on offense, one on defense. Will it make a statement for the rest of the league, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind, Charlton, is the NFL missed the grand promotional opportunity on the game.
They did. Yeah,
they should have called Kraft cheese. Because there's a lot of mac and cheese that's going to be going on this week. You know, this is the first time that there's going to be an abundance of mac and cheese in the NFL stadium, and that should be the dish of the day. So they should have called Kraft and said, "Hey, we need you to sponsor this game in Lambeau this week."
Maybe they still will, Big. Maybe they'll get Phil Knight to have some cheese dripping off that Nike swoosh, Big C, for that game. But I think, you're a defensive guy, so I know you guys like to grab and hold. I even hear some of you guys bite people. I don't think that's clean or even fair, but you guys do it.
When you make allegations like that, you should say allegedly. You say this is libel.
Okay, allegedly.
When you're making these allegations, say allegedly, okay?
Yeah, allegedly. But for your defensive players, because we know the money mountain is climbing. Back in the day, they had what Oakland called Moneyball and Billy Ball and all that jazz. But we know this pile of money is getting higher now. Who has to have the better performance? Would it be Mac? Would it be, Rodgers? Does it even matter? Because they've already earned it. But there's going to be new guys, and we keep talking about this. Who will be the first $200 million football player? If one of these guys crashes to the ground on this game, then there might be a pushback on going higher on that mountain of money. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, no, Charlton, there's not going to be no pushback on that. You got to understand that the salary cap rises every year. It's even going up next year. That's why the Raiders were stupid for trading Mac, Charlton, because that money will be there. Even though Gruden's saying, well, when I get to Vegas, I want to build my own team with my own draft pick.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to be in the draft? Like I said last night, Charlton, check the last 5 years of the Raiders draft.
Yeah.
Only Mac has panned out in the first round.
Yeah.
So the Raiders hasn't been that astute as far as picking first-round players. But when you look at this game, Charlton, you talk about Mac and you talk about Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is going to be Aaron Rodgers. The pressure, Charlton, is on Mitch Trubisky tomorrow night. That's where the true pressure is, because you got to think about it. Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes came in that same draft that Mitch Trubisky did.
Yeah.
All three of those quarterbacks will be starting week 1 of the NFL season. Mitch Trubisky was the first quarterback taken in that draft, traded up for by the Bears, sent players to the 49ers to get him.
Yep.
And had a very lackluster season last year, Charlton. So all the pressure's on Trubisky, because Aaron Rodgers is going to bring it. He's back. He's healthy. He has some new weapons, Charlton. He's got Jimmy Graham, who is really going to help him, on those seam routes down the field. It's going to be a huge mismatch.
Yep.
The Bears had a top 10 defense in the NFL last year. So they can bring it on that side of the ball, Trump, and they spent maybe too much time on the field last year.
Yeah.
But now you have to game plan for Khalil Mack, something that teams in that division didn't have to do last year, Charlton. And twice a year now you got a game plan for him. How effective will he be in his first game with the Bears, Charlton? Not having any preseason action with him. he'll be playing off raw talent.
Yeah.
He might make 3 to 5 plays in the game. I don't think he'll impact the game. I think he'll make some plays. He might even luck up and get a sack.
Yeah.
But he won't be the dominant player, Charlton, because he doesn't know the entire defensive package yet. Give him a couple of weeks, he will be an impactful player on that Bears defense.
Yeah, ironically, because we're watching this on Thursday night, and then you have the Raiders. They're playing their game against the Chargers. And I know I don't even know what to say about the Oakland program anymore. But the fact that
the Rams, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm sorry, they're playing the Rams. Beg your pardon. They're playing the Rams, and that's going to be a late game that the whole country can see. Now, you just brought up this great point about the package is expanding. For people who are not aware, the NFL is expecting the package over the next decade by Goodell to be $27 billion. So that runs against people that say, well, viewership is down and the ratings are down and the NFL is suffering. They're about to double their money. I don't think that's suffering by anyone's vernacular, Big C. But the Raiders at the same time, McKenzie was in Green Bay. Now he's in Oakland. I think the actions of John Gruden have said, McKenzie, you don't really matter. Just shut up and grin. But I think when you see what the Raiders are going to contrast with, now, if they get lucky and beat the Rams, then we can say, whoa, all that money going for the Rams defense, hold on. But I don't think anyone in Vegas would imagine the Rams beating or losing that game to the Raiders. Is there any pressure on Gruden? We talk about pressure on these players who are getting the money, whether it's Mack or Rodgers. Is there more pressure on Gruden, or do people just expect they're going to have a losing season, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Gruden's going to get a media pass, Charlton, because he just left that side of the ledger. They're going to say, well, he doesn't have the players that he needs yet.
Yeah.
The coaches will get these excuses. He's going to get $10 million, but he hasn't had a chance to put all his players in play.
Yeah.
When you look at his receiving corps, you got Amari Cooper, who has never really turned into the player that people have expected. You're waiting on Derek Carr to stay healthy. He hasn't done that. The offensive line was abysmal last year, Charlton. And who's going to be their running back? We don't know that. On defense, your pass rush is gone. So and who are you facing? Jared Goff?
Yeah.
Who has a great receiving corps in Los Angeles and also has Todd Gurley, who might be the top, if not the second best running back in the NFL.
Yep.
Oh, and we talked about your offensive line being abysmal last year.
Yeah.
You're facing the 2 best defensive tackles in the NFL.
Yeah.
In the same game, and they're right across the street from your quarterback.
Yeah.
Trying to get in his house.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's true.
You got 2 all-pro cornerbacks that you brought in, Talib and Peters. So when you talk about the Rams being stacked, McVay didn't have an excuse last year when he showed up. No one said, well, he doesn't have the players that he wants.
Right.
And everybody was shocked he was a head coach at his young age.
Yeah.
Okay, now he's going to take this old dog to task, Gruden. What's going to be the excuse, if the Raiders can't take the Rams? Well, John Gruden, he's going to need a couple more weeks.
Yeah, I told you I was getting my ring cleaned off, and this lady walked in. I said, man, that's beautiful. She was all foo-fooed out, Big C, had everything done up perfectly. She had her hair all, changed. You can tell she changed her hair color, but that's everybody's personal preference. She had that suntan rolling, but she put that ring on. He said, this is not real, right? Like she's supposed to know. She thought it was real. It wasn't. I wonder if, and maybe I'll be wrong, maybe we're wrong, but I wonder if Davis will have the same conclusion with Gruden, that no, you didn't get a diamond, you got some cubic zirconia. He was fired from his last job because he had lost his last 2 seasons, and you gave him $100 million for losing and being fired. It doesn't make any sense. Earl Thomas, Big C, the Legion of Boom is over. We know it's over. We talked about the great Northwest, those great cities from Seattle to Vancouver, British Columbia, and even Portland, if you want to throw that in there. But as far as world-class city, Seattle definitely is. They used to have a world-class defense. They still have one of those guys left in Earl Thomas. He ended at the holdout today, but it doesn't really matter, I don't think. Big C, your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlton, he didn't really end the holdout. He just came back to play with his teammates.
Yeah.
But I don't see Earl Thomas finishing the season in Seattle. They were only offered a second-round draft pick for him, and that was from Dallas, where he really wants to go back to and play.
Yeah.
The thing you have to understand about Earl Thomas, Charlton, is how much can Seattle withstand from him taking penalties.
Yeah.
Now, he hasn't had a chance to play under this new helmet rule.
That's right.
All through the preseason. And if you go back and look and see how tenacious of a player that Earl Thomas is, I see him costing Seattle 1 to 2 penalties a game, Charlton, because he's not going to change his style of play. He doesn't want to be there. So he's going to cost his team a couple wins. This is a team that all they basically have is Russell Wilson, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so that defense has been, riddled.
Yeah.
They've torn it apart. So I see Earl Thomas finding his way out of Seattle through penalties.
Yeah.
People say, well, that means he's a dirty player. No. Doesn't mean that he's a dirty player. He's in the history of great safeties in the NFL, of a Jack Tatum, a Steve Atwater, a Ronnie Lott, Charlton, a Donnie Shell in Pittsburgh. The guys who played the game to knock people out.
Yeah.
That's the type of player that Earl Thomas is. He's not going to change. Not till he gets to the place where he wants to be.
Yep.
And that's out of Seattle. And Earl Thomas will be gone before the trade deadline because of the cumulative penalties, Charlton, this season.
Well, I tell you what, Big C, even as we stick to the West Coast, thinking about football, the college football swing, I'm so excited that the NFL is back. For all those people that say don't watch the league, don't watch it. Just go watch something else, please. But we look at football. Will Michigan get its first win this week versus Western Michigan? Ohio State, I mean, they should run down Rutgers. But as a West Coast guy, I think the guy that might be a little bit shaky, just because of the arsenal that he's going to face when they play Oklahoma, Chip Kelly, UCLA. Remember, Moore was the guy at the helm last year, and they said, well, we got to let him go because they haven't won us a Pac-12 championship, let alone playoff. But Kelly, I mean, he's got to play Oklahoma, which might be the best team in the country. We can always say that. When you look at the fact they pulled a lot of their starters before even the fourth quarter, and they still put up great numbers, will UCLA play up, or will they get run over in this game coming up this week? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is the game when you talk about being outmanned. This is the team that's truly outmanned in UCLA. Oklahoma, like you said, their starters were sitting halfway through the second quarter.
Yeah.
They watched the game. Kyler Murray was 9 of 11 at quarterback, Charlton. 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
This is a team that's better than the team that went to the college football playoffs last year and had the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback.
Baker Mayfield.
Kyler Murray, the starting quarterback, played 20 minutes, and he was 9 of 11 and 2 touchdowns. So if you equate that out in numbers, Charlton, if he'd have played the whole 60 minutes of the game, that's 6 touchdowns and 600 yards passing. And not only that, Charlton, he's highly mobile, so he can run. UCLA hasn't seen anything like this. This is a team that played Cincinnati. A very,
middle of the pack.
Midwest team.
Middle of the pack,
they're not expensive. But this is a team that, when you talk about a coach coming out being 0-2, and now you're finding excuses for him now. That he doesn't have the players that he needs.
It's going to take some time. But I think when you're a program like UCLA, Moore has NFL experience. He knows how to bring in talented players. And Oklahoma has a program that was in the national championship picture last year. And this quarterback, I don't see where they've dropped off that quarterback, even though it's going to take some time to get that same type of acclaim. Michigan, I know every week it seems like Harbaugh's on the hot seat. They should get a win over Western Michigan. If not, then maybe you realize we suspended Braylon Edwards for no reason at all, Pixie. Your thoughts?
Well, you think about this, Charlton. Braylon Edwards got suspended for blasting a college football coach. You look at Terry Bradshaw. He's blasting an NFL coach on the network that he works for. There's no suspension handed down. There is a double standard in the broadcast industry, Charlton. Terry Bradshaw says he has no respect for Mike Tomlin as a head coach. He doesn't even look at him as an elite head coach. Matter of fact, he doesn't even look at him as a head coach. Now, you think about that. Here's a guy who's won a Super Bowl. Who has constantly been in the playoffs. And you got a guy, because you are 4 Super Bowl champions, you're maligning a current NFL head coach. And you would think that there would be some conduct policy from broadcasters from going on the air, but Terry Bradshaw being brazen, being white, he can say this against a black head coach in the NFL with the limited numbers that persist. But I don't hear him blasting white head coaches with losing records.
No.
That's the thing about Mike Tomlin has a career-winning record, a consistent playoff contender. But I don't hear Terry Bradshaw maligning white quarterbacks that lose. I don't hear him maligning Jason Garrett in Dallas.
Nope.
I haven't heard that at all. Or any other, because he doesn't malign Andy Reid, who constantly is out in the first round of the playoffs. He wasn't maligning Tom Coughlin. Up and down the list, Charlton, there's coaches all around that are white that don't get beat down by Terry Bradshaw. Terry Bradshaw jumps on an African-American coach, no suspension given by his network. because that's what Fox is. If you look at Fox Sports, it's part of the Fox News.
Yeah.
They are anti. They are a racist, bellowing organization. They do it.
Well,
and all you got to do is watch shows like Hannity, Tucker Fenderson,
yep.
Ingram, Laura Ingram. Look at it. Look at Fox News, period. Look how they beat up Nike and Colin Kaepernick this week. They've given them so much advertising. They're after Fox.
Yeah, that's funny.
Fox, you think about somebody who overpaid for the NFL because they wanted Thursday Night Football?
Yeah.
Fox paid $4 billion. They lost almost $4 billion in stock value when they paid for the NFL.
Yeah.
That's what they did. So you're talking about somebody who's hurting financially. Maybe people are tuning out Fox.
Well, at least the smart people are, because if you think of what Bradshaw said, Tomlin's the third highest winning percentage of active coaches, only behind Belichick and Reed. So if you're going to fire him, you got to fire all the guys behind him for not winning. It just doesn't make any sense. I do want to just give one more thought on this whole thing about the college football scene. I think we can go into any sport and say how great a sport is or how it's challenged. But when you do have the opportunity to get into media, and there's a lot of men of color that get into media and women. I still think it was Jamil Hill that got relieved by ESPN last year because she said some things that were factual about POTUS, who says to call the African American men SOBs. And then they put her on the sideline. They didn't support her at all. They brought her back at an ancillary role, but not the same, because they also believe in that same garbage, Big C. So, I mean, there's times when you don't have to believe or agree with what people say, but at least Google it. And when you have someone like Bradshaw, maybe he just forgot the fact that when he won his Super Bowls, he had guys like Lynn Swann and Franco Harris and John Stallworth and guys on defense that really carried the torch. And for him to just slam another African-American coach, I think even Gillum had a winning record when Bradshaw was injured, and they brought Bradshaw back to help win the Super Bowl. But he knows that coach speak, but the organization is anti what Bradshaw said. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I look at it from this perspective, Charles. Ben Roethlisberger has been in Pittsburgh longer than Bradshaw was.
Yep.
So if you're going to knock anybody for not winning, you're going to look at the quarterback.
You would think.
Ben Roethlisberger has had more trouble than Bradshaw had during his career.
Yep.
But he's also been surrounded by better talent than what Bradshaw was during his career.
Yeah.
So if somebody's not getting it done, Charlton, I got to look at the quarterback. But he didn't look at the quarterback. He looked at the head coach because he was the black guy in the organization.
Yeah.
He said nothing about the quarterback. How many interceptions did he throw against Jacksonville?
I think I'm still trying to count them. I think it's 5.
I mean, he was trying to catch Mason Peterman, against the Chargers.
Yeah.
So, but the last I checked, Tomlin wasn't throwing the ball during that game.
No.
So,
and if you
want to sit there and blast somebody, blast the guy who threw the 5 interceptions.
And if you're
not the guy that was frustrated because the other guy threw him.
And if you're watching or listening, just Google what Bradshaw said after the 5 interceptions at home that cost him a chance to go to the AFC Championship. Wasn't very tough on the man at all. He says fire the coach. The coach didn't throw the interceptions, Big C. I know the sports universe is always complicated, and we have a lot of things that people love. The Red Sox, they're 96 and 44 after coming from behind today at a 7-1 deficit. Major League Baseball needs someone like that. They need a front runner. They need a team to get out in front that can be the dominant team, and the Red Sox have the history to be that team. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you look at the Red Sox. They got 20 games left on the regular season. They've already just about shored up the Eastern Conference, Charlton, in Major League Baseball and the AL.
Yeah.
But, here's a team. You're down 7-1 in a game, Charlton, and you don't quit. And you have the lead in the division that you have. You don't quit. You come back, Charlton, and you take the game 9-8, Charlton, on a walk-off home run in the ninth.
Yeah.
But that just shows you the depth and commitment of this organization. This is what winners do. Winners win.
Yep.
They don't give up on themselves. And you think about it, you already won 95 games on the season.
Yeah.
Say, we can afford to lose this one down 7-1. No. Everybody who came up to the plate, Charlton, came up with bad intentions, okay?
Yep.
And they made the Atlanta Braves feel that this afternoon, Charlton, in pulling off that 9-8 victory.
Yep. Well, I tell you what, speaking of victory and winning, Rafael Nadal in tennis, Dominic Thiem match lasted 4 hours and 49 minutes. That's the longest match in U.S. Open career. And you think about Rafael, how dominant he is. He could have quit. He could have said, well, I have so many championships. But that willpower, we talk about the universe finding the side of justice. His willpower, the fact that he's been there many, many times, this guy is a winner. I really think that he's done great for the tennis universe. Just want to get your thoughts on a game that lasted so long, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I quit, Charlton. I did that game ended this morning at 2:04 a.m. Think about that, 2:04 a.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah.
I just happen to be in the Eastern Time zone.
Yep.
My bedtime is a lot earlier than that. You know, when you get old, you know, you don't stay up for anything other than get a drink. That's
right.
about it. Okay? So, I mean, just a great match, Charlton. Some 5 hours out on the tennis court in the heat of New York at Flushing Meadows.
Yeah.
But once again, it just shows the tenacity of these professional athletes in that competitive streak that they have, is that I don't quit.
Yeah.
Through all adversity, Charlton. I mean, there were people popping no-dos and drinking coffee at the stand, trying to stay away from this.
Yeah.
But just an out match of two fine professionals, Charlton.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. What I love the thing about sports, you put everything you have on the line. You give it all you got. And even when you do that, the person on the other side is trying to stop you. That's why we all, yeah.
Isn't that the campaign that Nike and
do it.
Colin Kaepernick?
Just do it.
Just do it.
Yep.
Even if you lose everything, just do it. Now you think about all of what they expended physically last night. They may lose everything in the next match.
Yeah.
Nadal can.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he did what he had to do to get there. Everything that athletes do resonate off the words of this new Nike campaign with Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah. I tell you what, Big C, that's what I love about sports. You find out who you are. And I just want to say for everyone all over the sports universe, do something athletic. Go for a walk. Get on some shoes. I'm not saying what brand you should wear, but sometimes you stand by people who help the underdog, especially when people are in the right or should be in the right, are being shouted down for being right and trying to make life better for every people. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I'm looking forward to where we're at 12 hours away.
Yep.
11 hours away from the kickoff, Charlton, tomorrow night.
Don't burn that pig.
All the interest in the world and all the bets are being made right now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sitting there in Vegas waiting on some of the change to fall out of people's pockets. That's what I'm waiting on, Charlton.
Yeah. I could imagine you're down there looking for a carpet. You're on the ground. You got a job as a carpet cleaner just for the weekend when football starts, because a lot of good old boys are dropping money and dropping a lot of things too. But what you don't want to drop is every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.